Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Q3 FY21 results call of Puravankara Limited, hosted by Emkay Global Financial Services. We have with us today Mr. Ashish Puravankara, Managing Director, Mr. Vishnu Murthy, Senior Vice President, Risks and Control, Mr. Abhishek Kapoor, Chief Operating Officer, and Mr. Neeraj Gautam, Vice President, Finance. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of today's presentation. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Amar Kedia of Emkay Global. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome the management and thank them for this opportunity. I shall now hand over the call to the management, Mr. Neeraj Gautam, Vice President Finance, for the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Amar. Good evening and warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us for Puravankara Limited's third quarter financial year 2021 conference call. My name is Neeraj Gautam. I am Vice President Finance of Puravankara Limited. The quarter's presentation and financial results ended December 31st, 2020 has been uploaded on the stock exchange. I'll start with a brief update on the business and highlights of the quarter. Following that, my colleagues and I would be delighted to answer any questions you may have and take suggestions you would like to give us. We noticed a turnaround in sentiment towards the sector across India during this quarter. Economic activities seem to be coming on track and the effects of COVID appears to be receding. The rollout of vaccine gives further hope for the betterment of the economy and the real estate sector. The worst of the pandemic is now behind us. The improvement of economic activities combined with increased desire to pursue home ownership due to pandemic leaves us optimistic over the years ahead for the residential real estate sector. Home loans at attractive interest rates are further contributing to the momentum. The Government of India has delivered a growth-oriented budget 2021 with a thrust on infrastructure sector, which will also benefit the real estate sector. Extension of benefits for affordable housing for developers and customers by 1 year shows intent of the government for development of the real estate sector. Coming to operational performance, the signs of recovery which became visible in Q2 FY21 further picked up momentum during the last quarter, received a booking of 0.91 million square feet, up by 41% YOY. On the year-to-date basis, we have achieved sales of 2.42 million square feet, up by 13% YOY, despite a much weaker Q1 FY21. Indicating the strong rebound in the sector. Sales value during Q3 FY21 jumped by 42% to INR 570 crores compared to INR 402 crores in the previous year. On the year-to-date basis, sales value increased by 9% year-on-year to INR 1,449 crores compared to 1,334 crores during the previous year. Coming to detailed financial performance for the quarter and 9 months of the year. For the quarter, consolidated revenue was INR 304 crores compared to INR 220 crores in the previous quarter, implying a quarter-on-quarter growth of 38%. EBITDA for the quarter was INR 116 crores compared to INR 81 crores, up by 44% on quarter-on-quarter basis. EBITDA margin improved by 100 basis points on a quarter-on-quarter basis to 38.1%. We posted a profit after tax for the quarter of INR 12.75 crores during the quarter, compared to loss of INR 10 crores during the previous quarter. We continue to generate operating surplus after interest and taxes. Operating surplus for the quarter was 122 crores. Q3 FY21 has been a remarkable improvement in collection. Customer collection for the period was INR 335 crores compared to 241 crores in the previous quarter, the growth of 47%. We have reached to a collection level at the pre-COVID period. Next, for the 9 months ended December 31st, 2020, our consolidated revenue was INR 714 crores and EBITDA was INR 263 crores. Again, operating surplus stood at INR 181 crores for the 9 months. On the overall basis, we saw an increase in interest among home buyers looking for larger homes, better amenities and projects that are well designed, driving consumers to consider Puravankara and Provident, both well known to offer these features. The company continued to meet all its obligations to its various stakeholders comfortably. On the financial front, we are well capitalized and remain optimistic about the coming quarters. Moving to our launch strategy, we continue to remain committed to our plans and currently have 8 projects spread over 8.7 million square feet across premium and affordable housing categories. Out of these 8 projects, 4 are under Purvanchal brand and 4 are under Provident brand. During the quarter, we entered into a partnership with IFC. IFC, a member of World Bank Group, the IFC Emerging Asia Fund (EAF), wherein they will invest $76 million in a special purpose vehicle set up by Purvanchal Group. Out of this, we have already received an investment of $41 million during the quarter for our 2 affordable housing projects, one at Bangalore and one at Kochi. We will use remaining funds for developing affordable housing projects under brand Provident. We are fully poised to capture the upcoming recovery in the real estate sector by offering diverse, high-quality options, catering to various buyer segments. With this, we open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The first question is from the line of Natasha Arora from KVS Financial Services. Please go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen, and congratulations on a good set of numbers. I just wanted to know if you can give some color on how the recovery has been in various segments. If you can talk about how are we looking at the commercial side and how has the recovery been in residential on both affordable and the luxury part.
Sure. So on the residential bit, I think the recovery has been greater than what we expected. This quarter we have done 0.91 million square foot as against the previous quarter, which is 0.65. We've seen traction both under our Provident brand, which is the premium affordable, as well as the Purvanchal. This quarter, if you see, I think Purvanchal's contribution has been a lot more than Provident. That is mainly because most projects in Provident, in terms of sales, the number of choices have come down. So now we are lining up new launches for it. So I think the residential recovery across both the brands, across cities like Bangalore, Chennai, and Pune have done well. On the commercial bit, as of now, we have only projects under development. The ones that we've already completed and leased out, rent collections have been strong. There's no issue so far.
All right. And if you can talk about the construction activities, are we facing any kind of labor issues on ground? And are you experiencing any kind of cost increases?
As of now, there is no issue in terms of labor. We are almost back to, I would say, 85-90% of pre-COVID strength. My view is that in the next month or so, we should be back to 100%, if not more, to basically catch up on the time lost. As far as cost increases, I think there were slight cost increases on account of commodities, but I think this is very temporary in nature, and I think these prices should stabilize, specifically in terms of steel and cement, not so much on the labor front.
Okay. Sir, and there was a news article published of some land transaction that happened around with Godrej. So can you give some more insight on that?
Right now, we are sort of in an exclusivity non-disclosure period, so won't be able to divulge any information on that transaction yet.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. For any follow-up, I'll join the queue again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Anush Balwani from AB Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir. Actually, I just want to understand how has been the recovery in the real estate market and how is the situation considering the pre-COVID levels now?
Sure. So in terms of sales, I think the recovery has been very good. Like we mentioned earlier, this past quarter we have done 0.91 million square foot as against 0.65 million square foot the previous quarter. This is all from sustainable under construction projects. There has been no launches in this quarter. So in that sense, I think it's been a great recovery. In terms of collections, we are back to almost 90-95% of pre-COVID. In the next month or so, even collections should streamline. Again, like I mentioned earlier, even the site activity, we are back to 85-90%. It's a matter of another month or so where we should be back to 100, if not a higher percentage, basically for catch-up.
Okay, sir. And is this, do you think this is a trend of people actually having more interest in the real estate currently cyclic and temperature in nature, or do you think this would continue and grow much more higher in the future periods?
We are confident that this demand will continue for various reasons. I think one is a lot of the fence sitters who were wondering if ownership is the way to go through this pandemic have understood the value of and the security of owning their own home. Secondly, the consolidation in the industry. Thirdly, the number of launches, active developers and launches because of consolidation has come down. So we're seeing a huge polarization that's happening towards the stronger brands who are showing execution at site, coupled with interest rates being at the lowest. So we strongly believe that we should see strong demand over the next year or so, minimum.
Okay, sir. And just one more thing, is this the growth that the Puravankara is currently having is apart from the demand from the customers? Is it any other activities that they are doing that you are doing, like more increased promotion activities or discounting the charges? Any sort of things you are doing?
So on the discounting bit, no significant discounts. In fact, I would say no discounts. In fact, November we increased prices. Jan end we again increased prices. November was almost a 3 to 5% increase in prices depending on the stage of the project. So therefore no discounts. In terms of marketing activities, in fact, our spends have come down. Cost has come down because we are focusing more on digital vis-a-vis, which is giving us a better result. It's helping us even track in terms of efficiency. So cost of marketing has in fact come down, whereas the productivity and output has gone up.
Okay, sir. And what would the advertisement and marketing cost for expense as a percentage of revenue for 9 months?
That is closer to, I think, on a consolidated level should be in the range of about 3.6%.
Okay, sir. And what kind of percent do you expect to maintain considering the situation normalizes?
So typically, if you go back into the previous years, again, I think it's more from the choice of media that was being used for launches and advertising, which was more press, newspapers and hoardings. We used to end up in the range of, I think most companies would end up in the range of 5 to 6%. We had targeted 4% for this year, which now, like I said, we're at 3.6%. We hope to maintain this number going forward.
Okay, sir. I thought just one last thing. You said that the collections had been very good this quarter and would increase further. So, any bad debts that you have faced in this or last quarter? Payment from the customers?
No. So I think the point is, if you've seen the collections go up, is basically customers now coming forward and getting their delayed payments back online. We did face requests from customers in the month of June, July, August, where they had requested for moratorium extensions and just delay by 1-2 months. But now that's not happening. So I think all payments are coming back online. But one correction, there is absolutely nothing, no concept of bad debts for us. End of the day, if there is a default in terms of payment, we will try our best to get that sale back online. Worst case, we cancel that unit and we resell it. So there's no issue of bad debt.
No, yeah, actually, sir, I was just trying to say default. Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Vaibhav Kacholia from VK Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. My first question was, what kind of sales growth do we see in Bangalore as a market for the next year, let's say for calendar 2021 or for FY 22 in terms of unit sales of apartments for the entire city, maybe?
Wow. So I think even though we have RERA and RERA collects some data here and there, I think we are still a very fragmented market. IPCs have made an attempt at collating some numbers, but I think every IPC gives a very different number. But if I have to average those numbers out, Bangalore used to be a city that used to, on an average, sell anywhere between, if I combine and take an average of all the IPCs, I think anywhere between 75,000 to about 80,000 units annually.
Right.
Here, I think the market share of the top 5-7 brands out of this would be in the range of maybe 25,000 units at max. These are including launches, right? Today, even if that market has come down to about 65,000 units, what we have experienced now is that the branded players have seen their market shares go up on account of consolidation and account of construction stopping with the tier 2, tier 3 developers, etc. So we're seeing that huge polarization of sales that's happening. So I strongly believe that once we used to sell 25,000 units, I think our market shares will start hitting 35,000 amongst the top 7-10 developers.
Fantastic. Got that. So my question was the 65,000 this year or last year, whatever. So where do we see it going forward over the next 1 or 2 years?
In terms of demand, I think we should easily see a 10% rise. Again, I say that more so from Bangalore as a city, we are seeing the rate of urbanization that's happening. Software, what we've been hearing and what's in the press, I think companies are now back to hiring, which will end of the day result in a demand for housing. So I think 10% should be a reasonable number to expect.
Right. We don't see, like Mumbai, we are seeing much higher growth, like January numbers are also very strong. So Bangalore, like 20, 30, 40% as yet is not visible, right?
No. See, Bombay now, what numbers? Are you talking of registrations? Are you talking of transactions? Registration, see, I think you can't track by registration specifically when a government has a temporary plan to say if you register within the next 3 months, you pay some 50% discount in stamp duty.
Right.
You've seen a lot of fence sitters there jump in to take advantage of that reduced stamp duty, which is only temporary. I am talking more of a genuine, how many transactions, not registrations per se, but how many transactions and what is going to be the annual demand in a city. I don't think even Bombay will be growing at that in terms of a total demand year on year.
But just to add that more and more consolidation will happen towards branded players. So you will see much higher percentage of market share coming, and which is why you might be seeing hyper activity in the branded players in Mumbai, and the same applies in Bangalore. So, as Ashish said, the total market share for the top branded developers is going up, and that's where you see a lot of demand consolidating.
Right. I wanted to know, sir, like, is there any chance like Bangalore can hit like 1 lakh units over the next 2, 3, 4 years, or very unlikely as of now?
I think very likely.
Okay, but we said like 10% growth we are seeing. So 65 will become 70 something, right?
Correct. So I think we should, if you say over the next 3 to 4 years, I think the number can touch 1 lakh.
Okay, got that. My second question was, is there something which we can do to expedite the speed at which we launch projects? Like, for example, Chembur, we've taken that land long back, and our competitors have also taken lands at similar times and launched their projects and sold their projects much quicker. So is the management thinking of doing something to increase the speed of launches from acquisition? Because otherwise that leads to a lot of money getting stuck and interest payments.
You are right. So I think that is also going to be one of our focus points. I think Chembur, the delay has only helped us in terms of, I think, getting this benefit of the reduced premium charges that has come in has benefited us. So to that extent, I think we were protected. But I think your point is well taken, and our focus is to ensure that we turn around projects within 6 months of acquisition.
Right. Okay. And so what kind of launches are we planning in this quarter, Jan, Feb, March, and maybe the next quarter?
So we have a total launch pipeline over the next, I think, 10 to 12 months. We have listed that out in detail, project-wise, on page number 14 of our ICP.
Right.
It's a total of 8 projects, totaling about 8.66 million square feet.
Right. I was asking specifically for this quarter and next quarter, maybe.
Sorry?
I was asking for this quarter and next quarter, maybe, Jan, Feb, March.
We listed out the quarters as well.
Got that.
Right, you'll see the quarters also will given an indicative quarter of the launch.
Okay, got that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Seema Agrawal from GK Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, I just wanted to check on the pricing side. Since we are seeing an increase in sales, are we giving any discounts or, can you throw some light on the pricing trend currently in the market that you see?
So we have not given any discounts. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, November we took the prices up 3 to 5% depending on the product and the stage of construction. We believe that the spurt of demand that we are seeing is more on account of consolidation and polarization that's being experienced by the top brands who are showing execution at site. Number of launches also in the city have come down. So to that extent, we are seeing this demand rise, but it's definitely not on account of any discounts.
Okay. Sir, and on the commercial side, I just wanted to check, like we see a lot of corporates now returning or cancelling office spaces. With that, do we see a change in our strategy on that front?
Right now, I think it's a little too early to comment. I think various companies are making statements of work from home, etc. Will that last? I think we believe that end of the day, people need to come to work. You need collaboration. But the design of working spaces may change from desks to more collaborative spaces. But even if you work from home, I think, and companies provide flexibilities, I think the demand will not come down more than maybe 10-15% over the next 3 to 4 years. And our projects specifically are all CBD city center properties. These are not large, 2 million, 3 million SEZ or campuses which are on the outskirts of the city. So considering that you have limited supply in the CBD, I think we should be okay.
Yeah. And so one last question on the collections. Like last 2 quarters, it is very heartening to see the improvement in collections. But can you throw some light on that? How do you see the trend on that front?
So we believe that as you've seen it already, our collections numbers have improved. We are getting to pre-COVID levels already, and with the new launches that are planned, our view is that we will continue to see that traction. We have collected 355 crores for the quarter, which is obviously much higher than the previous quarter, wherein we collected about 245 crores. So we are seeing that growth on a constant basis, and we believe that this will continue.
Understood, sir. Thank you. I'll come back in the queue for any further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Kumar from Thakur Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir. And congratulations for the excellent set of results. Sir, I wanted to ask you on a general strategy question. Like we had seen that the Provident projects was the focus area for the group, and given people's need for more space driven by work from home. So how do you see this panning out? So will your new launch pipeline will be more tilted towards your lower housing, while we in the recent presentation saw that it's evenly distributed among Puravankara and Provident?
So while the number of projects are evenly distributed, if you see the square footage of the projects that are being launched, Provident is about 7 million square foot of the 8.6 million square foot that we are planning to launch. So therefore, Provident continues to be our area of focus, and we will continue to launch larger projects there.
Yes, that's good. So my next question was on the financials. Sir, I wanted to understand what is your plan for the debt reduction in this quarter or in FY22?
This quarter, if you look at, we have reduced debt by 221 crore. And next financial year, we have a scheduled repayment of another 475 crore. So we'll be reducing debt next year by not less than 450 crore, despite some additional drawdown for CS, but will be kind of range of 2,300, 2,400 crore debt.
And so just in a kind of a guidance, like what kind of debt numbers you are looking at, like debt to EBITDA ratio or debt to equity ratio, which you would like to expect to maintain in the next 2-3 years?
We do not specifically give guidance for debt equity ratio. However, our target, our endeavor would be maintained to a debt equity ratio of 1 over the next 2 to 3 years.
So my another question is on land purchase cost. So we have seen that there has been wide variations in the land purchase cost, which is making it a bit difficult to calculate what should be the profit of each quarter. Because we see in this quarter, we had in Q2 you had a 70 crore cost, while this quarter we had a 191 crore. While in the previous year it was only 7 crore. So because of this wide fluctuations, it becomes difficult to project what kind of profits will come. So if you can throw any kind of a guidance, rather in the quarterly basis or annual basis, how should we look into it, and what kind of so that we can project the models?
See, if you look at, I'm assuming you're asking question from the profit and loss account of the company.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because because suddenly because of the fluctuation in your land cost, so it hits the P&L. So it becomes difficult to make projection of the P&L on quarter-to-quarter basis.
If you look at our P&L has been prepared on the basis of Ind AS 115. Yes. And besides, if you look at this quarter, Q3, as against 190 crore land cost, there is a reduction of inventory by 200 crore. You see below the minus 200 crore figure.
Yeah.
What essentially happens in Ind AS accounting, I am only matching the cost of sales. My top line reflects the units for which I revenue recognize, and my cost reflects only the cost for those units. Okay. The land which number which I am appearing in the P&L is merely a representation of the kind of money we spend for acquiring land in a particular quarter.
Okay. Sir, and what is the company outlook going forward on the purchases? And will you be looking for outright purchase, or you try to avoid that?
So the target for us is to continue to look at both options. Where we see value, we are looking at acquisition and ownership of land, which obviously gives us very, very strong margins. At the same time, we have an asset-light model which is in place, wherein we are looking at JVs and JVs, and they continue to be also our expansion plan in some of the markets. So we continue to have a robust pipeline of projects coming our way, and in the current market, we are quite optimistic about acquiring new assets.
Thank you, sir. I will join again on the call.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Monica Arora from Shared Giants Wealth Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My question is related to the raw material cost. We have seen that the raw material costs of steel and cement has been rising. So how you see these prices going forward, and how these will going to impact your margins? So how you are going to manage that?
One is, I don't believe that this increase in commodity prices will last for long. I think they're temporary, and we've seen that through cycles. Every 2-3 years, you see these prices misbehave, but then I think in a matter of couple of months, they all come back to whatever sustainable levels. Having said that, what we have done, so one of the reasons that we took prices up in November, like I mentioned earlier, 3 to 5% across projects, depending on the location and the stage of construction, was to mitigate any, or to protect the margins rather, from these commodity increases. Again, Jan end, we did another small price increase across projects to create that necessary buffer if required against these commodity price fluctuations.
Okay. And sir, my second question is, what is your update on the commercial real estate strategy? Because as we have seen, Puravankara is a very good residential player. And now because of this COVID pandemic, most of the people are working from home. So what would be your commercial strategy going forward?
Yes. So as far as commercial is, so our focus obviously continues to be residential, where 90-95% of our current portfolio is residential. I think in a year or two from now, we will see that come down only by maybe 5%. So about 85% will continue to be residential. The 15% commercial is land already owned by the company, right? Even there, we are sort of trying to mitigate where we may only hold on to few key, probably important assets. The rest we will exit in terms of maybe a forward sale of a built asset and try to monetize those assets. But this work from home, I believe, is a very temporary phenomenon. I don't know how sustainable it is from a long period of time. It takes one market leader in the software space to turn the strategy around and understand how it is negatively affecting productivity, and then I think it's a herd mentality and everyone will come back to office.
Yes, true, correct. Sir, I have one more question, which is related to the interest cost. If we see the company interest cost has risen, if we see the 9-month revenue, it is 714 crores, and the interest cost is around 260 crores. So it's a very much cost on the profit and loss of the company. So can you help me with that? That is there a possibility of reducing these interest costs going forward?
This interest cost is slightly higher because few loans we have taken for acquiring good land parcels during Q1 and Q2. However, going forward, as I mentioned, we have reduced our loans by 221 crores the last quarter, and next financial year we are going to repay the loan by another 475 crore, and this will reduce our interest cost on overall basis.
Also, just to share with you, as we launch projects and start monetizing our assets where we have put in investments and the top line grows, you will see this percentage of number come down significantly. So, while your point is right, you will see a lot of difference in the next financial year as the projects get launched and go into market, and we start seeing a higher top line.
Great, sir. That's really positive to hear that from you. And sir, one more thing, like we had seen in the COVID time, lot of immigrants had moved to their native places. So are you seeing now also some labor issues on ground, because the real estate is at the end of the day very labor intensive industry. So can you give me some color on that, and also on the cost part, like how has the wages panned out? How is the cost of labor panned out due to COVID?
So as far as labor strength at sites are concerned, we updated earlier, we are back to almost pre-COVID levels. We are at about 85-90%. I think in a matter of another month or two, we should be back to 100% labor strength across all sites. We haven't seen any significant increase in terms of the labor costs. So that's we've managed to keep that in control.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Vaibhav Kacholia from VK Capital. Please go ahead.
I wanted to check what is the incremental cost of borrowing, and who are the kind of lenders who we are borrowing from?
So currently we are getting our loans, CF, etc. We're getting anywhere between 10 to 11%. And these banks are usually ICICI, Standard Chartered, HDFC Limited for the most part of it.
Okay, got that. Fantastic. And sir, we had done some deal with Motilal Oswal Real Estate Fund. So was that for a new project or and if we have done a deal, these guys normally work on returns of 15% plus. So how does this make sense?
That was the last mile funding. So we had already purchased a large tract of land. That was the last payment installment for which we had taken that money.
Okay, got that. And so longer term, what kind of ROEs and all do we aspire to have? When can we reach 15-20% ROE for the company?
See, looking at ROE in an immediate period will not be a right measure for any real estate company, because if you look at our profit, net profit is a function of the kind of unit we are registering and handing over in a quarter and in a year. So the year where we will register more units, hand over more units, profit will be more and return on equity would be more. But if in a year, if I am launching more projects, I am incurring more costs on sales and marketing, and my construction progress is happening on many ongoing projects, my profit will be less, though I will be performing on sales and construction and all the fronts. This is the kind of anomaly in the kind of accounting and reporting system.
So should we at least look at ROEs of like what would be the embedded profits from pre-sales kind of thing? Is that how the company also looks at it?
Yeah, very much. We are looking at least 20%, margin on overall basis for any project.
20%?
20% margin for all costs. After meeting all the costs, say construction costs, land costs, interest costs, sales marketing, corporate overhead, loading everything, at least we are making as a bare minimum. If anything below 20%, we do not look at any that project.
This is 20% EBITDA margin you are talking about or IRR?
No. IRR is over a period of time. I am saying in any project, if you have to look at any project, whether I go for a project or whether I do not go for a project, and if I consider what is the kind of top line I will make for an overall project basis, what kind of construction costs I have to incur, what kind of sales marketing, what kind of G&A I have to load in the project, then whether I will be able to make 20% kind of money or not on that.
But that 20% can be made over like 2 years also, and it can be made over 6 years also. So then the IRR will change substantially, right?
Yeah, IRR will increase substantially. If IRR basis, I will be making more money because my investment will be less.
What is the IRR we normally target?
25%. Yeah.
Okay, got that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one now. The next question is from the line of Monica Arora from Share Giants Wealth Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity again. My question was left is that we have seen that in COVID times, a lot of people have lost their jobs and there was financial strain going on with a lot of people. So due to this, how you are like seeing the demand first, and the second is because of what all orders were booked earlier, are you receiving the payments on time or there are some cancellations? And how do you forecast how the demand will pan out in future?
Sure. So one is, I think, one yardstick is the new sales that we have had for this past quarter, which is 0.91 million square foot vis-a-vis 0.65 that we did the previous quarter. So we are seeing a much stronger uptake in terms of sales. In terms of collections, yes, there was a disruption in the months of August, September, October, but November onwards, even those collections where customers had requested for certain moratorium and 2-month extensions, etc., we are seeing even collections come back to pre-COVID levels. So December onwards, we've seen a steady increase of customers coming back, honoring their installment payments, etc. So that's a positive sign as well. Even for this year, for the 9-month period, we have done almost 2.42 million square foot of sales. So I think that is a huge reflection in terms of a strong demand coming back, people appreciating the security and the sense of ownership. Fortunately, in the market that we are present, housing is still very affordable. So the average pricing cost of housing is anywhere between maybe 5,000 to about 7,000 rupees a square foot. So in terms of ticket sizes, these are still very affordable.
Okay. Great, sir. And sir, earlier we were talking about some platform play and when we were in talks with some of the partners coming into for growing the commercial portfolio. Any progress on that, sir?
The discussions are still on.
Yeah, pardon, sir?
We are still discussing with a few potential partners to build a platform.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Swagato Ghosh from Franklin Templeton. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Sir, can you give some color on your like-to-like pricing for your current projects? And also, is there any plan to take price hikes going forward, like significant price hikes?
Sorry, your voice was not. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah. Can you give some color on the like-to-like pricing growth for last quarter, third quarter? And also, if there is any plan to take price hikes, significant price hikes going forward?
So, price hike, you can't do significant sudden price hikes. So it has to be done gradually. Like I said, in the month of November, we increased our pricing from 3% to 5% across projects. If you look at our ICP, page number 13, that will give you a clear sort of indication in terms of what kind of price realizations and how much percentage they've gone up by.
Okay. So, but isn't the market becoming conducive for larger price hikes? That's what I want to understand.
Larger sizes?
Yeah, larger price hikes.
Larger price hikes? I don't know. I think we all need to define balance between velocity and price realization. So I think that is more of a exercise that you keep gradually increasing prices and it stabilizes. You continue to push, maintain velocity, and then take it up again. I don't think anyone can just overnight take a price up by something exorbitant, maybe, 10%, and then still experience high velocity and stable sales.
Right. Okay. Second question is, so generally, for your launches, you have the EOI system wherein you get the interest and then you kind of sell out a large portion at the time of the launch itself through that price discovery mechanism. I want to understand if the market is kind of in an upcycle, how will your approach to launches and how much you want to sell upfront versus at a later stage, how will that thinking change on your future launches?
So I think our strategy will continue to be to sell as much as we can in the first 2 quarters of any launch by way of deploying the entire EOI process, the price discovery. We ensure that we don't lose out on pricing because it's a very transparent way to see what kind of demand you have, and therefore we only give a price band depending on the response. We set the base price at maybe mid or higher end of that price band, thereby not losing out on realizations. But the strategy will continue to be to sell as much as we can upfront rather than the olden strategy where we sell only 10-15% and then spread the sales through the course of 4 years through the construction.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Deepika Agrawal from ValueQuest. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for taking my question. My first question is, out of the current quarter's 0.9 million square feet of sales, how is it divided between Provident and Puravankara brand?
So 0.61 million was sold under the Puravankara brand and 0.3 million was sold under the Provident brand.
Okay, sir. And what would that number be for 9 months for 2.4 million square feet?
Puravankara would be 1.51 million square foot and Provident is 0.91.
Okay, thank you for that. Second question is, so you just mentioned that launches plan would be skewed more towards affordable, which is Provident brand, 7 million square feet out of the 8.6 million total launched plan. So in what time frame are we looking at all these launches?
So over the next 2 to 4 quarters.
2 to 4 quarters. Okay. And lastly, my question is, so currently the blended EBITDA margins that I see is 38%. So what would be the EBITDA margins under Provident brand and under Puravankara? Any idea that you could give on?
Provident brand EBITDA margin would be close to 2%, and Puravankara brand will be close to 30-32%. This quarter little skewed because of we sold RTM inventory which are there at my historical cost in the balance sheet. However, on an average basis, Puravankara brand will be making EBITDA of 30-32%, and Provident brand will be making EBITDA of 22-24%.
Okay. Sure. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vaibhav Kacholia from VK Capital. Please go ahead.
So, what kind of growth and what kind of square feet sales can we target next year?
So we do not give any guidance in terms of annual sales numbers, but the annual sales is a combination of two. One is your ongoing, already launched sustenance projects and the new launches. Because we obviously, as per our strategy, we tend to sell a very high percentage of units upfront within the first 2 to 3 quarters. So I think annual sales numbers would be reflective of how many launches we have in a specific year and how many projects we have under construction. On a sustainable basis, minus the launches, I understand 2.5 million square foot is a good number to sustain basis the current square footage under development. To that, if you add launches, I think meeting a number of 4.5 million square foot annually also is not or 5 million is not difficult.
So next year, especially since we have a lot of good launches, it should be a good number next year?
Yes, why not?
Got that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We would request participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Ankush Balani from AD Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Actually, I want to know your outlook, the outlook and strategy on plotted development currently.
Plotted development has a little bit history there. I think none of the top brands ever focused on plotted development, but for the past year or so, this COVID has put a renewed focus on plotted development. Customers, there is a new segment of buyers who would love, as investors or even to build their own homes. So we were seeing strong sales. We were the first, I think, I don't know in the country, but definitely the south to have a launch post the opening up of the lockdown. So in Bangalore, the lockdown opened up on 4th of May. We did our first launch, which was a plotted development, Woodfield, in Bangalore, on the 11th of May. And we sold out almost 75-80% of the entire project within the first, I think, 2 months. So encouraged by that, we have a separate vertical now focused on plotted development. You will see about almost 4 launches that will happen over the course of the next 12 months, which will be plotted developments across the cities of Bangalore, Chennai, Coimbatore.
Okay, sir. That was really helpful, sir. And how is your outlook, sir, on the geographies that you're present in? Which geographies has been the quickest to recover, and how is the strategy going forward towards the geography?
I think all geographies have performed exceptionally well, including the sleepy town of Chennai. Chennai has positively surprised us. I think our 0.91 million square foot of sales for this quarter is reflective of the demand coming back in the markets that we are present in. All have, so I think Bangalore has performed well, Pune has performed well, Chennai has performed extremely well, Cochin continues to be stable to good. I think they've equally contributed.
Okay, sir. And so any distressed assets now available at good prices?
There are proposals that keep coming by from bankers, but as far as direct transactions from landlords, be it outright or JD, I think for some reason they understand and they're getting encouraged by the kind of results that listed companies are posting, and somewhere have not really brought down their expectation of pricing. But I think we are at it, and we think it's a matter of time, and we should see some rationalization in terms of expectations on outright as well as JD percentages.
Okay, sir. Okay. And just one last question from my side. What will the growth drivers for the future years? For the growth drivers for when the COVID completely eases down and the lockdown will ease down completely, what would be the growth drivers to continue the momentum and increase further?
I think our sheer size. I think sheer size of our population. I think the rate of urbanization. I think job creation. I think the markets that we specifically are present in, like Bangalore, so the entire IT sector, etc. I think Pune. Again, you have support of the IT sector in Mumbai. I think our larger projects are more in the Thane. So I think the ticket size affordability. I think low interest rates. I think the job creation, etc., the hiring that we'll see will be, I think, growth drivers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was really helpful. All the best.
Also, the government spending, right? So even the government spending on infrastructure will result, positively for real estate.
Great. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Kumar from Thakur Securities. Please go ahead. Rajesh, you can go ahead, please. Due to no response, I have muted the line. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Neeraj Gautam for closing remarks.
Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and attention. I hope me and my colleagues were able to answer all your questions. However, if you require any further discussion, we are always available for the discussion during the coming weeks. Thank you once again and bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Emkay Global Financial Services, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.